There are tons of guides out there to teach you how to play different characters correctly, but when the time comes to play ranked, only so much information can really help you buckle down and carry your team to victory. I've made these types of videos myself, and while they are great resources to learn characters and their potential, sometimes it's difficult to pull out the practical tips that win you games. So let's cut out the nonsense and learn what you really need to climb as Ana. The first most important cooldown to master as Ana in both Overwatch 1 and Overwatch 2 is her Biotic Grenade. Far too many players use this ability way too passively or only to boost heals on their teammates. This bad habit is losing you games. The Biotic Grenade should be used to anti-enemies 90% of the time. You have to understand that dealing damage to the enemy, especially with anti, heals your team indirectly. By using the grenade to negate healing, you immediately force the enemy to be less aggressive and assume a more defensive position, negating damage they would have dealt to their team had they not had this status ailment. Splashing the enemy also allows you to completely change the course of the fight into your favor. It is because of this that Ana's grenade is considered by most pros to be more powerful than almost all the ultimates in the game. Sometimes though, you do need to use nade on yourself or your team, but it is far less than making your presence known by the enemy with anti-nades. If you are not using nade aggressively, you are actively restricting yourself from crazy amounts of value, losing you games and inhibiting your climb. Moving on to Sleep Dart, the most common mistake with this ability is simply throwing it away into the abyss. That Mercy that is flying at Mach 10 across the sky, yeah, ignore her. The 3 Sleep Darts you whiff her way would have been much more valuable if they were used against an enemy tank pressuring your team. Obviously, if she is mid-res, this is an exception, but we are all guilty of trying to replicate the god Johnny G. And before you start downing yourself and thinking you aren't good enough to hit key sleeps, 1, there are codes for you to practice, and 2, with patience comes easier shots. For example, when sleeping Genji blades, don't attempt this shot when they dash up, rather when they dash at you, as it is much easier to line up the target. Aside from hitting those key shots, it's important that you understand what ultimates are coming and think about where you want to allocate your utility. If they have blade, you should probably save sleep for it instead of going for the Mercy we talked about earlier. The same goes for other common characters like Cassidy, Soldier, Pharah, Roadhog, Sigma, Reinhardt, and even the likes of Hanzo if he is attempting to drag in a grab or before Lucio beats. With patience and a little thinking, your wasted sleep darts create serious value. Lastly, players love to tunnel vision with Nano. Do not get distracted by the classic ultimate combos like Nano Blade, Nano Visor, and Nano Rhine. The reason why they are classic is that in the right situations, they can kill consistently and win fights. But that isn't always the case. Every fight is different, and Nano is a very fluid ability. Nano Rhine is really bad against dive, as they can just run away. Nano Visor isn't so great into double shield, as he gets blocked unless he has a strong off angle. And Nano Blade is bad if the enemy is holding grab or flux to counter it immediately. So Nano isn't about picking the correct target per se, but the best target given the situation. Sometimes you don't have a support ultimate to counter the incoming blade, but your Zarya is close to grab. Giving her the boost will allow her the little push she needed to generate it in time to counter the enemy's win condition. Dishing out a Boostio is decent every so often, especially if he needs to live against aggression to build beat in order to turn the tide of the fight. So stop falling into the mindset of only using the classic combos and understand how using Nano in different ways will win you even more fights. Conceptually, positioning is misunderstood by almost all players. The basic rundown for Ana is that against dive, you want to play closer to your team, and brawl, you want to play a little bit farther away, but still somewhat nearby your team. There are so many different variations of this concept, and if you want a full discussion, both of my Ana guides for Overwatch 1 and 2 are available on the channel. In this segment though, I want to specifically squash the misconception that since Ana is a sniper, she has to sit as far away as possible from the fight. That is just not the case. Remember the main thing holding you back? Not being aggressive enough with your grenades. Thus, staying far away makes this really hard to fix. Before we close out the video, let's rapid fire a few more tips that will help in those niche situations Ladder throws at you. Stop scoping in so much. It reduces your line of sight, movement speed, and leaves a trace on your bullets while unscoped doesn't. High ground is not always the best option. Sometimes it can actually hinder you if you play off of it incorrectly. If you are isolated, make sure you place yourself in a position to quickly drop off after the enemy engages upon you. Bonus points if you drop into your team, especially a friendly Brigitte. If you're missing a ton of shots, don't get discouraged. Just use the codes provided to you in practice. The hard part is the consistency with your training. If you want it so bad, you shouldn't really have that much of a problem getting after it. The information presented in this video is tried and true. I recently reviewed a player with these tips in mind after one session, and they were already up 100 SR in a day. More resources are linked in the description to aid you in your understanding of Ana and Overwatch, both in the present and future. The tools are in your hands to pub stomp lobbies as Ana, but it ultimately is up to you to use them. You've already made it to this video, so the passion is clearly there. Just get after it. Thank you all so much for watching, but until next time, I've got to peace out and Paz out. I'll see you in the next one.